Let me tell you about this guy.
I'll tell you about this fucker right here.
Yeah.
All right. So, Mike, I've got 2 words for you.
Suck it.
You. No. Parachute pants. Mike. Parachute pants.
Oh.
The
early 80s.
All right.
We were always under threat of falling out of airplanes, so we needed the parachute pants.
Yeah, so I understand, I hear through the whispers in the wind, you guys got some weird, or not weird, but you guys got some strong opinions about Gen Z and the way we dress and our pop culture and all of that stuff. But I got one back for you, and it's parachute pants.
All right.
So did you wear parachute pants?
I did not wear parachute pants. I
yeah.
know a lot of people that did, but there's actually a purpose behind parachute pants.
All right, tell me the purpose behind parachute pants.
So back during the parachute pants era, all right, there was another fad.
You're talking like the Yabba Dabba Doo era?
Like early 80s.
All right,
okay.
So Yabba Dabba Doo, jumping off dinosaurs and
exactly.
shit. Yeah.
So during that era, there was this fad of breakdancing.
Okay.
All right. And my buddies, I was not, have not, and will not be a dancer. All right. So that's why I did not wear parachute
You gotta
pants.
lie to this group. I'm gonna find some old video VHSs on you dancing.
It's so funny. You probably don't know what VHS stands for, but
hey, whoa. I used VHSs when I was a kid, right? They were there briefly before they really started phasing out. And I actually do know what it is, but you're putting me under pressure. Now I can't remember.
So breakdancing came out, and so
video home system, Mike. I know what it is.
So parachute pants.
Okay,
all
parachute
right,
pants.
ADHD bastard. Breakdancing came out, and it was a huge thing. I mean, I was living in Long Beach, Mississippi, population of my friends, all right? And it was big there too, all right? And so we would literally, and I didn't dance, I still helped these clowns for some reason, but we would literally go to like these department stores and ask for the boxes, like refrigerator boxes or premium, and you'd break them down and you'd put them in the lawn and you'd break dance.
God, all those movies were real, huh? You just breaking down boxes in the middle of the goddamn driveway.
You would break dance on the cardboard boxes because it had significantly less friction than, say, this driveway or the grass. All right. So it became you can carry it around dance floor. And the parachute pants were smooth.
Okay.
All right. So they didn't grip and tear up your cardboard. So you wore the parachute pants so you could do the spins and all those kinds of different things while you were dancing. That was really the purpose of the parachute pants, but they became very faddish because of the breakdancing culture and fad. So that was the purpose of parachute pants. And it was really weird because I imagine like the boomers out there and the silent generation and maybe even like the greatest generation people, especially in Mississippi. You see a group of guys. And here's the thing about breakdancing. It actually brought in like the black kids and the white kids, and they actually would go and do this together. So it kind of broke some racial boundaries. And just imagine seeing black kids and white kids holding a boom box, right? Another one is carrying this big ass piece of cardboard, and the other two are like riding in their bicycles, and they're going to go to this person's house, and you're just seeing that go down the street. It's like a broken down box, a boom box, and like these 4 kids. What's going on?
You're like, why do these orphaned homeless kids have a boombox?
Yeah, the boombox. I mean, they had cassette players in them, and you always had that one guy with the pencil.
Yep. So you could reset your cassette, right?
Well, we don't call it reset.
Oh, whatever. You gotta
So sometimes when like the cassettes, they're like this big and they're like reels, like the reel-to-reel machine inside a plastic casing. That's what a cassette was. And sometimes when you're playing it, it'll get jammed up and the film would come out. And if you touch it, you screwed up your entire thing. So you had to take a pencil and stick it inside that reel and then turn the pencil to
reel it back up.
Yeah, to reel it back up.
Yeah, that's yeah, you guys finally came up with these fancy machines that allow you to rewind them automatically without having to stick your pencil in there.
But no, even if you hit, it would tear it up. I mean, that's the level of technology you're working with, because that's part of the problem. It would like get caught up and then just start pulling out and then make that weird, funny, squiggly sound, and you're like hitting stop real fast. Oh no, I spent $4.99 on this. That's like a week's worth of
that's my week's paycheck. Oh god, that's funny.
That's the point of parachute dance.
So interesting. This isn't really a Gen Z thing, but I think more of a millennial thing. Interesting that right after you, they did the complete opposite, and they had these silent discos where they would go and listen to their own music and all dance together, and it's just completely quiet. So everybody's listening to what the DJ is playing in these headsets that are wireless, and they're all dancing, but nobody can actually hear any sound outside of the headphones. So they all dance together, but it's called a silent disco. You're being completely silent, just playing in the headphones.
Idiots.
Oh yeah, they're the idiots. Idiots. Walking around with the goddamn poor homeless man's box you stole just to fucking dance on his house.
Well, you know,
they're the idiots.
If we had the technology to play the actual music and the funds to actually go to a place where the music and dancing can take place, we would just play music and dance, not, hey, let's all get together and ignore each other. Our social interaction is by getting together and not communicating.
Well, you cannot blame them. Just like we established on the last episode, we hate the millennials and they hate each other too. They don't want to be around each other that much.
Oh, jeez.
So, I think, my generation, we're fascinated with these olden times and this old-timey shit that you guys used to pull and do. So, give me something that was extremely iconic for pop culture for Gen X. Like, give me something that was like, even now to this day, you guys are still obsessed with this thing.
Obsessed might be a strong word. I don't think we're an obsessed generation.
Oh yeah, you guys were forgotten. So
yeah.
Give me the thing that you're least whatever about.
So there's some things that we're very nostalgic about. So Gen X, we grew up in a very fluid and changing time period. There's a lot of
not as fluid as us, buddy.
Oh yeah, no. You change second to second. So, but it was the shift from. I mean, in one decade, we went from a shift from disco to like suicide rock. All right. I mean, it's like grunge, disco to grunge, and there's a whole set of music in between. So things, I think, were really picking up speed at that juncture.
Okay.
So fads came and went fairly quickly. But some of the things that linger in my mind is like the Rubik's Cube. I mean, because even today you still see the original, but then there's
actually all generations are obsessed with the Rubik's Cube. Even mine, plenty of kids that I know that was like their thing. They were the Rubik's Cube kid.
Yeah. Have you ever played with it?
I have. Yeah.
Have you ever solved it?
Not without looking it up, but
all right. So I have solved the Rubik's Cube.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I'm super smart.
I've solved the Rubik's Cube 3 ways.
Okay.
All right. And it took forever. All right. I solved it the normal way by doing this after like 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
You know, us Asians are smart, but evidently that didn't come down to me. So it took me like 7 months of fidgeting, and we would actually literally sit on the couch for like an hour just messing with this thing and not realize an hour had gone by. And nowadays I can't do that for an hour. I've lost that attention span myself. But So I did it the normal way, the way you're supposed to after 7 months. But then I got creative, and I was able to take it apart and reassemble it.
Yeah. Pull the little stickers off and put them
And
back on there.
Then that was the third way I did. I was like, I'm just gonna pull all these damn stickers off.
Yeah, I know a lot of kids that like they actually solved and knew the actual like trick to it, right? The actual way to move things around and get them where you wanted it to go. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the Rubik's Cube is iconic across a lot of generations. I'm more so curious about something that is not, but something that you guys are still super nostalgic about and maybe wish would come back.
What I wish would come back, and it's still kind of around, but arcades. Yeah, we used to drop some quarters in some video game machine. There's this game that, I mean, we came up with like Pac-Man.
Drop some goddamn silver on that shit, boy.
You just go out there and you're just lining up the quarters, and people are getting mad because like this one guy. There's always that one guy that can beat the game, right, without having to put in another quarter to get new lives. And you're like behind that guy, and you figure it out. Like when you see that guy on it, and you kind of look at the screen to see where he is, and like, you got 45 minutes waiting for this. Let's go find a different game. So
it's funny that you say that, actually. I don't know how much you've looked into it, but there are actually a lot of people, I don't know if they're necessarily Gen X, but I think it's more our age that are going to them, but maybe more millennials, mix of Gen X that are starting back up like arcade bars, and where you can go and play, but you don't pay for the arcades like quarters and all of that stuff. It's, you're drinking and you're paying for your drinks, so you get to play like the different arcade games and stuff like that. But there are arcade bars now that my generation is actually extremely attracted to. We're obsessed with video games, right? So in a place where you mean to tell me I can get drunk and play video games in a certain place, then I'm here for it.
I'm actually intrigued with something your generation is doing, because there used to actually be a game show for video games where you'd play these games and you'd compete against each other on this game show, and if you won, you got this brand new Toyota Tercel or something.
That was actually my first car. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
So, but you guys are having esports.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's intriguing.
Big thing for my generation. We are not, I don't think we are as into quote unquote normal sports as much as previous generations.
Oh, absolutely. I've seen some just weird ass
outside is
MMA
scary
stuff.
Outside is scary, okay? And if you look at me, I burn easy, all right? But yeah, esports is a huge thing in Gen Z. My school it was an all STEM school, and typically in STEM you tend to attract what your generation would call nerds, right? Yep, nerds. So that's what you typically attract, and that's typically who are associated with esports and things like that, right? So, but it's huge for our generation, and there are tons of competitions held every year similarly to that, but we don't watch them they're not on TV, they are on YouTube or Twitch. But yeah, esports it's huge.
So I dabbled in Twitch.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. And
what'd you play?
Red Dead Redemption 2. I love that game. It's my favorite game of all time. All right. And
it's a good game.
It's really because of the story. It's so, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's the most eye-catching, eye-appealing game I've ever played and that I know about. So I love that game.
Crazy what technology can do, huh?
It is. It is. I remember we used to just be squares. You put like a little a circle on top of a square, and that's a cowboy. So, I love that game. I experimented with Twitch because it came with the Xbox Series X, and it's pretty much already there on it. And So it's like I would play it, and I'd have that one friend that would log on and see that I'm playing it and say hi, and then disappear after 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, I'm not alone. No, I'm alone again.
Just like I was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, so you told me something that you feel like you wish would come back and was pretty nostalgic. So tell me something that you feel like your generation absolutely hates about Gen Z pop culture. What do you just like, you're like, I don't get it. It's very weird and I feel like it needs to stop.
Gosh, I'm going to sound like that old crusty grandpa right now.
You goddamn boomer.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like that person. I kind of feel like your music is the same.
As in, like all of it's the same? Like it all sounds the same, or what do you mean?
Every genre sounds the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go into rap, all of the rap just sounds the same, and the country sounds the same. I think your generation has gotten away from the stories in country music, and it's being, and honestly, maybe it's the millennials taking over because you're doing the performing, not the marketing and that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
but it's like everything's so formula.
So, we talked about this a little bit. I think I ranted on it a little bit at the end of the millennial episode, right? But unfortunately, millennials are trying to find the shortcut to making money. And the more unfortunate part of it is that some of it on us is working. So you have the music that people are making that are just panders to that one audience, kind of like we talked about in our first one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the country that's all the same shit, doesn't tell a story, just got that yee ha ha bullshit, and it only panders to that audience. And rap does the same thing, hip hop,
and movies are all like reboots or remakes or something like the same universe. Like I enjoyed Marvel, right? Mm-hmm. To a point.
All up, like Marvel was it. So the hot take right now, Marvel was great until the Thanos thing ended, and then it now, in my opinion, it's not that great anymore.
Yeah, it should have ended.
It's the same shit. And I don't disagree with you. There is way too much of it, like the formula stuff, and not making good music or not making good movies. I do think though that is actually more a millennial thing. I think Gen Z's like influence on our perspective of like of music and movies and all of those things, I think is actually shifting back towards that. Like I want a good story. I don't want this bullshit pandering that you're trying to do to me.
So what's the most recent good story movie you watched?
So people may laugh at me, but
probably
it's probably gonna be you. But the latest Puss in Boots movie. So I know it's a quote unquote kids movie, okay? But the latest Puss in Boots movie by DreamWorks was really, really good. I know why you're laughing, and I completely understand it, but hear me out, okay? It is not the same bullshit that comes out with all of these movies that is the same formula. It has a, in my opinion, very compelling story that also hits on some of the topics that Gen Z and maybe just as a society that we're talking about, but not to the point of like not to the point of like killing it like a millennial,
Okay.
like over talking about something. So like, for example, there is one scene in the movie, and I think it's probably the most, I guess, well put together scene of the movie. There's multiple, but this is one of my favorite ones. So essentially, Puss in Boots is dealing with he's dealing with basically his like he's dealing with like his image problem, essentially, right? So the whole concept of the movie is that cats have 9 lives, right? And in each life he's basically been living selfishly, and death is now after him and is sick of his like selfish bullshit, and he doesn't think that it's fair that cats get 9 lives, so he's out to kill them. Basically, he's like, you wasted all of your other ones, I'm not gonna let you finish this one, let's just fucking end it, right? Break the rules and you don't get your 9th life, right? So he's dealing with this image problem and running away from death. And there's essentially this scene in the movie where he feels like death is after him in that moment, and he's getting super worked up and basically like anxious about it, right? And he has this companion who's a little chihuahua in this movie. Okay, maybe I'm not selling this, but just stick with me, all right? So he's got this companion that's a chihuahua, and the chihuahua's dream is to like be a therapeutic animal, right? And so he's freaking out, rests his head on him. Puss in Boots kind of starts talking about a little bit about what's bothering him. And it like calms him down and kind of touches on the mental health thing. I don't think that it goes too far into the whole like just really sensitive bullshit, but it kind of just hints on these things that Gen Z is like dealing with now. But I don't know. I just think it plays really well on like the Gen Z culture and telling this story through this movie and working through this issue. And the movie just overall is good. It just tells a good story about, and kind of hits on these like deeper subjects that not a lot of movies hit on anymore, especially kids movies, right? But it's not like too quote unquote meta where it just like goes too far and too deep and like, all right, this is just getting, weird. Because a lot of the movies now that are playing into that like meta woke breaking the fourth wall like shit that is just kind of every movie's doing now. It's like, oh, this is funny, like we did it with Deadpool, and like now everybody's doing it and it's funny and all that stuff. It kind of starts to go away from that and like telling an actual story. I don't know, I just thought it was really good and like played on a different perspective that not a lot of movies hit.
Okay, so I have a flood of thoughts now.
Okay. Maybe I could have come up with a better example, but Puss in Boots was the most recent one. I think it just had a good story.
All right. So I need to rethink my questions in the future. What is the Gen Z fascination with like avocado toast?
Avocado toast. All right. So this is where I know I kind of said this before. That is a millennial fascination.
Okay.
It's like this avocado toast with my quinoa in whatever bullshit, right? Sorry, I almost threw up just saying it. It's like this, it plays into this whole like, oh my god, I'm better than you and more pretentious, so like I eat my like avocado toast and my kale and like all this other bullshit. We do not have an obsession with avocado toast. It's more the millennials.
All right, I'll accept that. How about your obsession with Shrek?
Mike, it's Daddy Shrek. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So the Shrek thing, so for us, Gen Z has an obsession with memes. That is like our culture. So
that's how you get your news.
It is how we get our news. Yeah, exactly. Literally through memes. If we can make a meme out of it, that is what we're gonna do. So Shrek has, for whatever reason, I'm being honest, it's a good movie, right? Tells a great story in my opinion.
Not as good as Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah, I don't, I'm not actually sure where I lie on that. I really like Emperor's New Groove too. That's also a really good movie. But yeah, so anything that we can make a meme out of, we do. Actually, we make a ton of memes out of Emperor's New Groove too. So, we just take everything and make a meme out of it. Nothing serious to us. We just make memes about everything. So that's how we communicate. We communicate through memes. We don't actually send text messages. We just send each other weird, obscure pictures with Shrek sitting in a mud hot tub.
You're all able to land at the same place at the same time because of it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we just really big into creating memes and that meme culture, and so Shrek is just an easy one to use. I think that you'll find there's a bunch of things we made memes out of that we've just now become obsessed with.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that really where it stems from. Shrek is just an easy one to pick on for us.
All right. Anime.
What about it?
What is your obsession with anime?
So I think Gen Z's obsession with anime, I think that so what you were talking about earlier with the whole, like, all of your stuff is the same, like the music, the movies, and I'm assuming that plays into shows too. Like, they just kind of keep remaking the same thing over and over again using this formula and try to play it out. With anime, it's kind of along like the meme juncture. There's so much openness for creativity and change. So a lot of people think when they think of anime, they think of like, oh, I watch anime for the story anime. Like, like boobs out, whatever. It got all the jiggle physics and all of that and all of that fun stuff. But that's
jiggle physics. I actually never heard of that phrase before.
You've never heard the jiggle physics phrase?
I'm in love with that phrase now, though.
Yeah. So to clarify, pretty much every anime, no matter what, has some sort of jiggle physics. They always got to throw it in there. I don't know why. And honestly, there's some where it's not needed, right? So I will give it that. That part is stupid. They got to throw it in every goddamn one. But I think there's just so much more openness for creativity and for the story to be expressed in a different way that like a normal TV show just doesn't always get you. Like in anime, you're only limited by what the artists can create, whereas in a show, without going through all of these special effects that would take the budget of a movie to do, you just don't get that. So I think that's part of it. Also, I think that anime is kind of one of those things where it's like, it was always a thing. It was just always the weirder kids, quote unquote, that were into it. And now it's just become more accepted in Gen Z for everybody to watch it. It's definitely not for everyone, but I think it's just the openness and the creativity that that is there. We really like being able to express ourselves through something. And anime opens up a very wide, a very wide hole for expression. Like, there's so many different types, and there's way more options of anime than there are TV shows in general. And so there's different types for everybody, and Gen Z really likes things that are tailored to their interests.
So what I'm understanding is you pretty much hate the world.
I don't think we hate the world, right?
Well,
like,
look at it this way, all right? Puss in Boots, cartoon. Shrek, cartoon. Anime, cartoon.
All right, well, maybe we hate the world a little. It's all bullshit. Come on. You have to admit, from your perspective, it's falling apart. We need some sort of, like, escape from this shit show.
When and what was the last movie you watched and enjoyed that had, like, real humans in it?
Sorry, this is going to sound weird, but I'm really, like, forgetful when it comes to movies that I've watched recently. So let me clarify this. It just needs to have people in it. It doesn't necessarily need to be realistic.
Correct.
I want to clarify.
Yeah,
'cause,
it's
like,
it's not a cartoon of any variety
okay, not
that
a
you watch
cartoon
and enjoyed. Doesn't even have to be your favorite movie that you watched in the last 5 years. Just what was the last one that was real and you enjoyed?
Okay, so I'm gonna look at a list of movies here so that I can actually pick from a good list. Otherwise, if I just list something, it's not gonna make any sense.
Because it could be weird that I've seen more Gen Z movies than you. That it just kind of.
Well, the thing is, I've seen them. I don't know why. I just forget the movies. Is like it for me. It's the same thing. People ask me all the time. They're like, "What's your favorite artist?" And instantly, I'm like, "What's an artist?" I don't know how to. I don't know how to.
Start like
Yeah, I don't know how to. I don't know what to say about these things.
It's like when you're 13 talking to a pretty girl for the first time.
Yeah, that's how I get when people ask me this question. I don't know why. So I want to find one so I can give you an honest answer that I watched recently that I really liked.
Do do do.
Shut up. Hang on. I'm looking.
I had a friend.
Why are these movies that I've never heard of? What movies came out in the last year?
I don't even know, to be honest with you. I think it's been more than a year, but it's like Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay, I found one, but I'm for some reason I'm stumbling on the name right now. Hang on.
Top Gun Maverick.
Shit. What was this movie called? Talk about something else. I'll find it. Hang on.
So, talking about drooling and panicking and choking in the real world, I had this friend who had a hard time talking to girls.
Okay.
Right. And so he was actually older and he worked at a grocery store and she worked there and he wanted to ask her out. And so I'm out there, I'm pumping him up, right? It's like, you can do it. I mean, you've already interacted and you're friendly with each other. You know, just go out there and just say, hey, you want to go to a movie sometime after work? It'll be cool. And so he sees her working in the aisle and he goes down the aisle and he stares at her, right? And she looks at him and she's like waiting for him to say something. She's like, what? And he's trying to get the gumption to ask her out. And I'm in the other aisle just trying to be more support and hearing how he does it. And all he does, he's just like staring out and he goes, buttock. And then he runs away.
Okay, so I have an answer for you. One of my more favorite movies that came out within the last couple of years that had people in it was Free Guy. Did you watch Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds?
No.
Okay, so basically the concept of the movie was that this guy and girl, probably around my age or so, maybe a little bit older than me, had been working on this game where essentially the whole idea was that it was supposed to be more like a just beautiful like scenery game and relaxed and less of like all of the other like actiony like bullshit, right? And the whole dream was that this game would basically, the characters would be like AI, but like real AI within these like video game characters. So they would actually like come to life, right? So basically this tech company or this video game company buys them out essentially and they sell it, and they basically like kick them out of it or kick the girl out of it. The guy still works there, and essentially create this new game based on their video game idea, completely stealing their idea. And their guy in the movie, his name is Guy, and it's Ryan Reynolds playing him. He's inside of the video game and he actually comes to life, right?
Okay.
And he realizes and finds out that he's in a video game, and then the story picks up from there.
I think in the 80s they called it Tron.
Okay, sure, but that's more guy that's sucked into a video game. But yeah. But yeah, so that I really like comedies. I really like Ryan Reynolds. I think he's hilarious and all around, in my opinion, a good guy in general. And so that was one of the ones that I really like.
So you don't like reality is what it is.
Yeah, I guess we don't. I guess we just, don't like reality.
Do you like
find a way
Asian
to escape.
Asian culture things though? Oh,
Yeah, I think it's I think for some reason I will say that is an interesting thing about like Gen Z in our age. We are obsessed with Asian culture.
like K-pop.
Yeah, like K-pop,
and
except
boys that look
not
like girls.
me at all. Okay, hang on, back up. Have you seen the guys you were obsessed with in the 80s? They were wearing the headbands, the long hair. Like, we just took your girls of the 80s and made them Asian, all right? I thought you would be happy, okay? We did this for you.
Now that you mention it, Twisted Sister, Cinderella, Motley Crue, Poison. Actually, the K-pop boys are pretty.
Yeah, we just made them Asian, that's all. And British.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, we Gen Z is definitely obsessed with Asian culture. I'm not really sure why. There's definitely a very weird section of people that are like, oh my God, ooh woo, like you guys get to live your dream, and you Asians get to live in Asia all the time, and all this stuff. Like, there's definitely a weird section of that. I'll give you that. That's a strange bit of us that I don't really understand. But yeah, I think Gen Z, now that we've kind of been talking about this a little bit, I guess we're just obsessed with finding ways to make it not so shitty. Like, we're really into like VR, right? We want to be immersed in something that is kind of like the real world, but we want to be able to control it. A big movement right now with Gen Z is playing these games that are based on real world jobs and hard labor, but on a video game. So Power Wash Simulator, Lawn Mowing Simulator, Farming Simulator, like all of these things that, these hardworking people are busting their ass for, and we're just like,
you guys, I think it's you, literally created a game of living the day-to-day life and trying to meet neighbors and date people and do dishes and get to bed on time and make sure you get the job.
I don't think we created it, but we definitely play it.
Sims.
Yeah, The Sims. Millennials play it too, but yeah, I don't know.
You know what my generation does with The Sims?
What?
We try to find the most creative ways of making them die.
We do that too. I think it's just a control thing. Like, I think sometimes we just feel we don't feel like we control anything. We feel like we're getting to that place regardless of what like political party you fall in. We feel just the same as everyone else. Like, our vote doesn't matter, and we just don't have any control over the situation. So I think we just we pick things that we can control. Like, I'm gonna do this, blue collar job, but on my own time, damn it, not on yours. I just, I think we just need to.
I think we're just going to like take a non-prescription lens and put it on the end of a VR headset and tell you that I've invented a holodeck. Here, put this thing on. I'm going to take you outside to the lawnmower and have you mow my lawn.
Yeah, I think what's funny about us is that, back to like the meme culture thing though, we make the memes about ourselves with this kind of stuff. Like, we know that we're doing this, but it's just, I don't know. I think it's just, we don't want to being out in the, the scary real world all day, right? Like, we're at an age now where we're in it, we're doing it, right? And I think we just got into it and we're like, this is fucking bullshit. Like, you guys did this for this long, and so we come home and we just want a means of getting out of it and having some
I
control.
want to fantasize about things, but I don't actually want to do them. I can understand it, but better fantasies, my dude.
Okay, maybe we do need some better fantasies than power washing.
Look, I made it clean.
Yeah, I think that's something that all our gen probably needs to work on, right? But I think just sometimes, I think it helps us feel not so helpless about certain things. But I do think something that is special, and not special in the way you're thinking, but like special about our generation is that we're very self-aware of that kind of stuff. We know that we're doing it. It's not like we're putting on blinders and like, oh, I'd never do that. Like, we know that we do it. And I think that we're actually pretty good at pulling ourselves out of it when it's time to pull ourselves out of it, right?
I honestly, I think there's some correlation to Gen X with that. Because, and it's not exactly the VR thing, because obviously technology is very different, but there's definitely times...
You know what VR stands for, right?
Virtual reality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But there's times where me and my buddies would do something, right? And after it's done, we'd look at each other like, that was like the dumbest thing in the world. And he goes, yeah, it was. Like, go and do it again? Yeah. So we're aware this is stupid, and we're going to do it again.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's the same, right? Every generation has their pieces where like, we're aware this is dumb, but we're going to do it anyways because it's fun and stupid. And it kind of went from starting fires in our neighbor's backyard to we're going to start virtual fires in our neighbor's backyard.
But you couldn't do everything everywhere all at once. You had to go to Puss in Boots.
It's a good movie, damn it. Watch it. It's a good movie. It's hard to defend myself when I say things like Puss in Boots, but it's a good movie.
How about this? I'll believe you and trust your judgment.
Thank you. Oh, shit.
So some of the things that you didn't get to experience in Gen X, things like Columbia House music.
Columbia House music.
Yes.
So it sounds like what we would turn into a coffee shop now.
So it was, you get these ads like in magazines and that kind of stuff, the physical kind, right? And you could get
physical ones.
Yeah, you could get 16 CDs for 1 penny. All right, but you had to get this subscription service, and you had to buy, the first one at regular price, and like $9.99 and that type of thing, and then you had to agree to buy like one every month for the next 12 months type of thing.
Right. Yeah, so it was like a discount if you subscribed, right?
Exactly. So you would do that, and then it was like impossible to cancel. And so you're like,
because the only way to cancel was to call them using a goddamn payphone that you spent your money on the subscription service.
It's like, and you'd call and they say, okay, we got it canceled, and then you'd get another CD, and it's like, oh, it just must be the delay in communication, right? And so you disregard it, and then you get like this notice you failed to pay. It's like, wait a minute,
You were sending your notice to cancel through the postal service.
And then you get the second CD, and then you call them up again. Okay, some reason it didn't go through, and it destroyed your credit. All right. And then another thing that you missed out on was like Blockbuster Video. You'd actually...
So we actually, I think people think that, well, there's somebody, there are the younger Gen Zers, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they did miss out on it. But my age group, we actually didn't. We were right there probably up until we were like in 3rd grade.
Right.
So elementary
So
school,
you
right?
missed out on the fun parts of it. Your parents had to deal with it.
Yeah. So we
Like,
we didn't we weren't the ones renting it,
Right.
right? But we went with our parents to rent it right on the end of where they were.
So you might have been at their hip during the arguments that started out with like, this is bullshit. I did rewind it before I turned it in. I'm not paying your $2 rewind fee.
Okay, so something from my own life. I have it's kind of funny story about that. So, and it's funny because it's Gen X related. So my mom, Gen X, right? Our family was really big into what killed Redbox, killed Blockbuster, which was Redbox, right? That was one of the first thing. Netflix and all this other stuff helped, right?
Mhm.
But Redbox was one of the first things like, oh, I don't got to go to a store. I can just rent this movie for $1 for the night at the grocery store. And it was perfect because it was like checking out and like, you just rent this movie, right? So my mom was notorious for forgetting to bring these movies back.
Yes.
Right? So the problem with it is that we would rent a movie all the time, but we never had it with us. And these movies, and for those of you that may remember, so it wasn't like the subscription service where they kept charging you, but they stopped charging you after 25 nights. So $25 of renting this movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
These movies, to buy them, were like $10 or $15.
Blockbuster was worse, all right, because they would continue
to charge you, right?
It's like it's a VHS,
Yeah.
all right, and it's like I can buy this at Walmart for $9.99, and you're getting this bill for $150.
Yeah.
And it's like, can I just buy you another one to give it to you?
House, like
It's like they wouldn't even let you buy one from the store and give it back to them, and it had to be the exact same one barcode. It actually finally went to court, and the citizens of America won.
But yeah, so we notorious for forgetting, and we did not help, right? Like she would be like, oh, make sure you grab that movie, and we just didn't grab it, and it just sat in our closet. And she actually just called me recently. She's like, hey, so is it okay? Can I finally get rid of all these Redbox movies that we have? No joke, still in their case. I think we counted it up one time, and we had roughly between $500 to $600 of Redbox movies sitting in we didn't even store them properly. They were in a goddamn dresser, all lined up. And of course, we forgot about DVD players 15 years ago. So there's all sitting lined up, these useless Redbox movies. I think she finally got rid of them, but literally like $600 worth of these Redbox movies. It was terrible. But I think that's the closest thing that like me and my sister got to experience with like this whole Blockbuster thing. Because after that, right, they died very quickly. We went all into, like I said before, we love subscription services, right? We have a whole bunch of them now. To me, the idea was great. It's so over the top now. It is like we wanted to cut the cord and we just attached 60 more cords to 60 other things. It's bad now. But yeah, I don't know. It's really funny to think about that struggle, and now we just forget to cancel subscription services for the 60 other things that we have now, and they're not magazines or Blockbuster or Redbox.
So now I do Vudu.
Mhm.
I just buy my movies digitally and that type of thing.
Yeah, Vudu was actually really good. So Disney and Vudu paired up, and they actually started doing it to where you could prove that you owned the DVD, and it would just transfer to your Vudu. So that was a really cool thing that I thought they did for a little while. You could just transfer them over when they were partnering together before Disney came out with their own Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
So yeah, that was a really cool thing that I think that they started to do, and a bunch of other places did something similar where you could actually own your movie but on digital, so you didn't have to waste all of your DVDs.
Another Gen X thing that I think we're
not done talking about you guys yet. Jeez.
There's no being done talking about us. I mean, we're like the second greatest generation. Freedom. We were the last generation to experience freedom as kids, meaning there was no cell phones. We weren't tethered. People couldn't contact us. We were off.
People couldn't track you.
Yeah,
and
we
all
were
that stuff.
off getting into the mischief that we're going to get into, and we just have to pay for it later if the parents find out. Right? And usually the parents find out because, at least me personally was not good at like hiding stuff and covering stuff up. I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, you had an Asian mother. She probably beat your ass.
oh yeah, whatever you had to look to see what was around her before you talked with her, because she doesn't hit with the hand. She hits with whatever is closest to her.
And Gabby tells me, my wife tells me the same thing about like her upbringing, right? It's that is definitely something that like left our American culture, but is still very strong even till now in every other culture.
Oh, absolutely. So it's like, that's an iron skillet. I'm going to wait and tell her about this later.
Yeah, you want to talk about pop culture? Just go to an Asian or Mexican household. They'll teach you about pop culture.
Yeah. But yeah, I do remember a time I got a free ride back to my house in the back of a police car in the 6th grade.
Yeah, now unfortunately we do the rides in the back of the police car for all this scared straight bullshit because these kids are f***ing assholes.
Because you're not allowed to hit them with the frying pan.
Yeah.
So that's I do like that, because I think it was a safer world for us back then, and so it was easier to give us the freedom, but also because we were raised by boomers, they were pursuing their own careers and pursuits that nobody wanted to stay home and make sure we were watched over. So we had to be in that situation.
Just while you say that, one last thing before we have to wrap it up here, I do kind of have a question leading into that about what you said about the safer world thing. So do you feel like it was actually a safer world, or do you feel like we just now have the things you were talking about, like we have ways to the tracking and like cell phones and things like that allow us to see all of these like bad things that are going on at night or whatever? Do you think it was actually safer, or do you think that those things were still happening, we just couldn't really see them?
I think it was safer. Those things still happen. There were still kidnappings and things of that nature. But I believe with the growth, particularly in urban areas where people are packed upon each other.
Oh yeah, you get more people, you just automatically increase.
Right, but I think it creates a mental health breakdown in things. And so you have less tolerance, more willingness to take action and that type of thing. And therefore it becomes more dangerous, and people have gotten more self-involved. People are less responsible. You hit a kid as you're rounding a corner and you just take off, driving so you don't want to get caught type of thing. You'll take your chances on that. I think in my time, you actually stop and, check on the kid and call 911 and that kind of thing, and then try to worm your way out of it in the court system.
Interesting. Well, cool. Good talk. I got a lot of, hopefully Gen Z got a lot of out of what you were talking about, and kind of your perspectives on some of our pop culture and what you miss.
Yeah. And I want to explore more on Gen Z, maybe next episode or in the future. Maybe send us some questions, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, blah, blah, blah. But if you comment and ask us some questions, there's a lot of pop culture things. It's so huge and massive. I'm kind of curious what people want to know. I mean, Gen Xers, ask the Gen Z guy, let's go Brandon over here, and then Mike.
You do that to me. Don't drag me into that bullshit.
And Gen Zers, you can ask me questions.
I can't believe you did that. All righty. Thank you guys. Thank you for tuning in again. Appreciate all of you guys.
Peace be the journey. So I got it on the right side this time.
You're learning.